You inspired me with your with your mustache
Thank you.
and Mike's mustache a few weeks before,
True.
and Ted's upcoming mustache inspired me too.
Damn it. That locks me in.
I'm doing it. I've already made up my mind. So
Good. I have an extra week to contemplate this terrible decision.
You only have to have one for what, 2 hours on a
That's
Wednesday
true.
night?
yeah, that's totally fine.
Right. So, you guys ready to talk about the kicking game, or?
Yeah.
Sick.
The Cape May.
Hell yeah.
Which
I'm
one?
actually. It's just their lager. It's like a pale lager or whatever. It's good.
Nice.
They make a ton of really good beer. Every time I go home, I pick up something different. They also make like a ton of different beers too, which is kind of crazy.
Okay,
Mhm.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. They I have tried everything that is pretty much seasonal. So their shandies. I haven't done their porter because that just sounds like a horrible idea in the middle of the summer. But yeah, everything else that I've had by them is pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we are live. So hello, everyone. Welcome
What's
back
up?
to our live show. We got Ted, Mr. Mustache Matt, second Mr. Mustache Connor. How you guys doing?
Really
All
good.
right.
Good.
All right.
Everybody's week so far.
Not bad. Not bad.
Wet.
It's been miserable.
A lot of rain. A lot of rain. All right. So let's get started with some quick news. A lot of things happened this week. Mahomes got his contract, which is absolutely insane. We'll get to that in a second. But most recently, Raheem Mostert, running back for the San Francisco 49ers, has requested a trade, which seems to be pretty interesting because in the playoffs and towards the end of the 2019 season, he seemed to be hitting his stride, especially with Matt Breida. Whatever happened to him, they decided not to use him. Tevin Coleman was a little injured towards the end of the season. And so he wants out. Breida's gone. Mostert wants out now. They still have Tevin Coleman, as I said, and he's a very talented running back when healthy. But what people forget is they also have Jerick McKinnon, who they signed to a huge 5-year, $25 million contract 2 seasons ago in 2017. But he got injured and he hasn't saw the field since. So maybe that's cause for concern. But still, even if he gets traded out of town, I think the 49ers still have a very solid backfield.
Well, I wonder how much Jerick McKinnon plays into this, because they did give him that big contract, and now we don't know through this weird offseason how much attention they're giving him, how much like they're trying to loop him into plays, how much they're anticipating him playing. And then if you're a guy like Raheem Mostert, who carried that team through like the pivotal stretch of their season last year, and you're not getting the respect that you feel like you earned during that time, and you're kind of an older guy for a running back, I could see being that all being like the recipe for unhappiness. It is still surprising though, because they got rid of Breida, and you would think if the 49ers were smart, they would ride the hot hand with Mostert. But my guess is that there's something going on behind the scenes.
Are we like serious though? As like Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman are the guys that are running you out of town? Like I feel like
Right.
it was like such a big like highlight reel for them, especially it was like a huge storyline. I don't know. They're not in my draft plan, so I figured. I mean, Mostert was one of the guys that I was actually keeping an eye on, as opposed to the other two. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems a little weird. I
mean,
agree with Matt. Though. It sounds like something behind the scenes.
Yeah, we saw last year that they really used 3 running backs fairly well, and they just, like Matt said, they just kind of used the hot hand. So Tevin Coleman Matt Breida really started off the year, then Tevin Coleman kind of filled in through the middle part of the season, and then towards the end is when Mostert really took off. So maybe he's looking for a feature role in a backfield, but man, it's not going to happen now. You're too late in the game. So something had to happen behind the scenes recently that is making him feel this way.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he like a journeyman though? Like, isn't this his like second or third team, and like he was like that like fifth or sixth on like depth charts or on like practice squads? I thought Mostert was like somebody that just caught on with the Niners and like wasn't like a feature guy anywhere else, like wasn't like a high pick. I could be wrong with this story, but I feel like he wasn't like a big name going into San Francisco.
You know, I feel like I should know this, but I do not. This is only his third year in the league.
Okay.
So
He's only been with the Niners?
Only been with the Niners. So yeah, I mean, he's fairly young, which I mean, he's got a great opportunity on a team that featured him and loves to run the football. Great offensive line, great head coach, good defense, great defense. That's success right there. I don't know why you would want to give that all up. So that just he's unhappy with something.
Yeah, I'm looking at a tweet from Ian Rappaport right now, and it says that he wants to be paid in line with the other running backs on the team, which seems fair because he was so pivotal last year. Tevin Coleman makes $4.5 million.
Yeah, I see that.
And I don't have Jerick McKinnon's number off the top of my head, but he did get a contract.
Around $5 million.
Yeah, when he did get a contract when he came from Minnesota. So, yeah, that makes sense for Mostert. I mean, I don't know.
Doesn't make sense for the 49ers. I'll tell you that much.
It doesn't. I mean, that's kind of the trade-off if you have running back by committee, is that's you're going to end up with 3 unhappy running backs probably at some point when it comes to paying them.
So just a quick update. Mostert has been in the league since 2015, and he's been with the Eagles, Dolphins, Ravens, Browns, Jets, Bears, and the Niners. So
really,
yeah, he was a practice squad player for the Eagles, the Dolphins. Yeah, so that's why I was kind of like wondering why he seemed to be kind of commanding like more possession. I mean, anybody's going to try to, vie for themselves as far as getting touches and try and,
Gotcha.
get their pay. But to me, it just seemed like this guy had finally found some success on a team, and you would think that he probably want to stay in a good situation, but I guess something's going on.
Okay. Yeah, I see here. So 2018 was the first time that he actually got NFL carries.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Got it. So, hey, look, I think he's talented, but then you have to take into consideration, like what you just said, Connor. He's bounced around. He's been buried on depth charts, been on practice squad. So San Francisco finally gave him a chance 2 years ago, and he's on one of the best teams in the NFL, one of the better offensive lines, run blocking, and one of the best offensive-minded head coaches that the NFL has ever seen. So it kind of goes back to the Denver days with, Mike Shanahan. He had a stretch of, 5 or 6 different 1,000-yard rushers, whatever it may be. Is he actually a good running back, or is he just a product of the system?
Well, I also wonder who's in his ear, because you look at running backs in free agency over the past few years and they haven't done great. And I know this wouldn't be a free agency move, but the end game would be to get a new contract. And so if you're talking about a guy who's bounced around between 7 teams and has limited success, and then after the 6 games where he did have success, he asked for an opt-out of that team, who's going to want to bring in that guy and then pay him a ton of money? I mean, he's setting himself up to fail, I think.
Yeah, for sure. He apparently asked for a $1.4 million raise, and they declined. So I guess
that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
I guess I keep going back and forth on this. 1.4 seems reasonable.
We'll see what happens. All right, so let's move on from Mostert, because he's probably going to end up as a nothing running back in the NFL after this. So we got Patrick Mahomes signed the largest contract in sports history, actually, over $500 million, which had never been done. The contract length is the longest in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, post-merger. I believe the longest before this was Calvin Johnson with 7 or 8 years. I think it was 7 years that he had on his contract. So
Mike, you should know this. The longest contract before this was a 10-year deal that Michael Vick signed with the Falcons before,
Is that true?
That's true. Good.
I never really.
The Falcons.
Yeah. That was good. See, I never really paid attention to the contract stuff back then. I was more involved in the football stuff. But in this day and age, contract information is just everywhere. You know, they have websites built around this. They talk about it on all the sports outlets. So,
Well, if
that's my
history
bad.
tells us anything, I guess keep an eye on Patrick Mahomes after hours, right? Because the last guy who got
True.
a 10-year contract.
Dig up his backyard. You may find something back there.
Oh my God.
Too soon? No?
Yeah.
All right, but here's the real question behind this. So he's getting a 10-year deal. He's going into his 4th year in the league. Super Bowl victory, Super Bowl MVP, league MVP, all in his first 3 seasons. I mean, the guy is talented. He's a great talent, as we all know. But is this something that is going to really destroy the league when it comes to quarterbacks? Because who's the next guy to really get paid outside of Dak Prescott? It's going to be Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson, given the type of football player that he is, the type of quarterback that he is, he's going to want this type of money given the season that he's had so far. But can you give a running quarterback a guaranteed 10 years in a contract? I mean, history says no, but what do you guys think?
10 years is a lot of time in the NFL for any position, whether you're a statue quarterback or a mobile quarterback. I have to imagine that to some extent, these are front loaded and with contingencies and probably pretty low guaranteed money for like the back 5 years, with the expectation that they'll either redo it or the incentives will be met. And I don't know the specifics, but I have to imagine there's like, they wouldn't eat too much on the cap if someone has a career ending injury, and it wouldn't be the end of the world to give a guy a couple $1 million after he served your team for 5 years. And then like, you have to pay it out. Sure. I feel like it's probably just like a bargaining chip, and like to keep the team sort of in the driver's seat as far as renegotiating the contract, so that there's not like a free agency looming. There's always like something to fall back on, and some sort of like come up instead of team that wants to make a trade for them potentially would have to like own up to or take over or something like that. But I don't think that this contract will see past year 5.
So like we talk about, well, Mike, to your point, like is this going to ruin the league, or like, you know, the structure of quarterback of roster building in the future? I think it's like this seems like a win-win for both the Chiefs and Mahomes. You know, we talk about like teams needing to win a Super Bowl when their quarterback is on a rookie contract, because when you pay them, you take up such a huge chunk of that salary that you can't pay anybody else, unless you spread that money out over 10 or 12 years. And you can only do that like in the perfect situation. Like Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs were in the perfect situation to be able to do that. But if you look at Rodgers' last contract, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe they could have done a similar thing, like 8 or 9 years, and then spread that up over that amount of time. Lamar Jackson, I mean, then it gets tricky, like with the running quarterbacks. Do you want to give him 10 years? I don't know. But Dak Prescott, would you give 10 years? I don't know.
He doesn't want it. I mean, he's actually gone on record today. I just read that they keep offering 5 years to him. He says that's too many. I believe he's looking for a 4-year contract.
Well, so yeah, I mean, that's the other thing why this was a perfect fit for Mahomes and the Chiefs, because they agreed, and I think Mahomes recognizes that if he gives the team a team-friendly contract, like he only counts like $5 million against the cap this year or something. If he gives the team a team-friendly contract, then he's going to be able to win more Super Bowls. And then when his contract is done, he's 34. He's still he's still in the prime of his career at that point. He can still get another contract. But I guess to circle back, like the way to like mitigate that, like the big boom of that second contract for a quarterback is to spread it out over 10 years. And you need to that's a risk. You need to take you need to have faith in your quarterback. But then, you also have to take a look at the bigger picture. You're going to be able to build a better team around that quarterback. So it's just, I think it's a different way of doing it, a different way to view how you build a roster going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Matt, it's definitely like a win-win kind of feel for the organization and the player. But I also think this was perfect timing in the fact that it came right after that Super Bowl win.
No doubt.
As far as Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott are concerned, Dak Prescott I'm hesitant to give that guy any money. Like I don't see this. Obviously, he doesn't have the skills to compare to a Mahomes or a Jackson, but I mean, Dallas has a lot more winning to do for me to think that he's deserving of really anything substantial or newsworthy. But as far as Jackson's concerned, looking at the 10-year plan for Mahomes, whose skill set, and I know that they're both extremely athletic and mobile quarterbacks, but like, who do you see like their skill set aging better? Like, I feel like Mahomes, even though, like you said, he's going to be 34 when the contract is up, and that's still not old by any means for quarterbacks that we're looking at now, especially elite level quarterbacks that stay in the league for a long time. I feel like Mahomes, with his arm strength, his accuracy, I know a lot of his game is like elusiveness and doing things that are just kind of unfathomable, if that's even a word. But I don't know, is Lamar Jackson the same? Is he cut from the same cloth? Will his skill set like age like similarly, do you think, to Mahomes? Like, are they pretty much like not like carbon copy type players, or is one much more dependent on his legs than the other guy?
I would say Lamar Jackson, I mean, he is very dependent on his legs. That's why you see a lot of these receivers open downfield, because with the threat of his run, you're keeping a safety, most likely, closer to the line of scrimmage. And you're usually keeping a spy on Mahomes. You almost have to at this point. I mean, he's so fast, right? So you have to account for him as a runner, which is, guess what? It's leaving your corners on an island in one-on-one coverage. And a lot of people have a hard time keeping up with the speed on that offense. You have guys like Marquise Brown there, Willie Snead, who has always been a burner. And we've seen this with Cam Newton, right? He has been injured. He took a lot of hits. Eventually people are going to catch up to what Lamar Jackson is doing and what Greg Roman is doing in that offense there. And he's going to start getting hits. And I guarantee you that starts this year. They lost Marshall Yanda at guard, and he is easily a Hall of Fame guard. He's one of the best guards to ever play the game. And no one talks about him because it's such an unheralded position. But protecting the quarterback and run blocking is so big from an interior pass rush standpoint. And Marshall Yanda was one of the best. Lamar Jackson is most likely going to take a lot more hits this year. You may see an increase in his rushing numbers, potentially, because he will have to break contain a lot. But if he starts taking these hits, you saw what happened to Cam. Cam was pedestrian over the last 2-3 seasons. He could barely throw the football. He wasn't taken off to run. The smart players with their legs are guys like Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes for the most part, because they're baseball players. They were trained. They know how to slide. They know how to get the first down, or they're scrambling and looking downfield to throw the open pass. So I like guys who stay in the pocket. It's history. History's on my side there.
Well, just real quick, it's a big year for Jackson because he improved as a passer last year. This will be his third year, right? So he's still a super young player. He progressed from year 1 to year 2. Let's see what the jump is from year 2 to year 3. He was using his running ability to mitigate some of his issues in the passing game. Maybe that starts to even out. Then maybe now we start to see a more balanced player who's just a more sustainable quarterback for the future. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Not saying he can't throw the football, because, obviously he had 36 passing touchdowns this past year. So not saying he can't do that, but if he can't run and teams are loading up to defend the pass, I think that's a completely different story. And you're not seeing the same.
So would you say that Mahomes' game will age better than Lamar Jackson's?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's tough to
So
bake
right
into
now.
Contract negotiations.
Yeah.
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 But
I
it's
was
true.
just curious what you guys thought as.
Save the fact that, Mahomes also has the ring now. Jackson did also get the MVP, and if he progresses this year, they say every new quarterback contract will reset the market, but it's hard to imagine. Mahomes is special, but how do you characterize it? When Jackson can point to 36 passing touchdowns and 1,200 rushing yards and a league MVP, and if they get deep into the playoffs again and another 14-win season or something like that, how important is that just that ring and that wow factor on tape in the passing game. And
when is this contract year? Do you guys know?
next year they should be working on
next
the
year.
extension.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Because he was a
entering his
first
third
rounder,
year.
so they do have the
Yeah.
5th year, but like they just plowed right over that for Patrick Mahomes. So
Mhm.
I'm sure it'll be next year.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens if these longer contracts become more of a trend, than a blip on the radar. But
Yeah. There's another
You
way to
know-
do it. Like the guy that I was sorry to interrupt, but I was just thinking about Tom Brady during this whole conversation, because you
Yeah.
hear about Tom Brady all the time, how he always had like team friendly deals, and so that's another way to package like a long term deal. It's just to do like these smaller things that are always kind of like passing the buck down a few years and like restructuring cleverly.
Sure.
In 20 seasons with the Patriots, Tom Brady made 235 million, and so we're talking about. I know it's a different time. We're talking
Mhm.
about a decade of difference. But
But
Mahomes is
235 is equally 500 million in this day and age.
yeah, right. And they're saying that this is a Business Insider story. He gave up at least 60 million in his career, maybe 100 million, just to give them team friendly deals. So there is another way to do it besides just giving them the lump sum 10-year. If you
Mhm.
have a good relationship with your organization, you can have these smaller contracts that benefit the team. But that takes two like willing parties to be in good faith over so many years, over so many
Right.
contract negotiations.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the NFL and their contracts. I was surprised to see him get this contract amidst the possibility of, salary cap being hit next year if the NFL is going to proceed without fans. That's going to be a huge loss of revenue. But I think it's 2022 when the new TV contracts will be coming in. So who knows?
Yeah,
I'm
that
not a
crossed my
money guy.
mind that might have lit a fire under Mahomes' butt to get a contract in, if with the somewhat ambiguity in the next 2 years and
Mhm.
his contract coming to a close and wanting to sort of position it with what we know right now before we find out that the salary cap shrinks for the first time.
Sure. I did hear that I believe it's his 2022 and 2023 contract year is fully guaranteed both years. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. And it's stuff like that helps build a team around him. I know Sammy Watkins just took a pay cut today and he said, what do I need all that money for? So, I mean, there's a skill position guy that's not being selfish. He wants to be there and he wants to win. And good for him.
Winning the Super Bowl heals all wounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's willing to take a pay cut to play for the successful Andy Reid Chiefs.
Exactly. Just like a lot of people were taking pay cuts to go play in New England.
Yep.
Because those players are driven and the ring is more important than the cash.
And also, towards the end of somebody's career when they've made a ton of cash, the ring it looks pretty good.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what matters. Right?
But I mean, there's very little I bring to this show, guys, except for the fact that there's one thing I can definitely do, and that's press start and stop on a timer. And I was just looking at the old draft board here, and looks like
All right.
Yep.
we've got about
Yep.
4 more rounds of picks to make, and I'm getting
Yes, we
a little
do.
excited. The anticipation is killing me here. So
Gotta get reacquainted with my teams here.
Yep.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, Matt's been sitting on pick 41 for an
That's
entire
right.
week now. So this better be a banger.
Well, so this is what happens. Like every time, like you watch the NFL draft, and you're like, why is the number one overall? Like, why are the Bengals taking 14 minutes to pick Joe Burrow?
Right.
And it's because they forgot who they drafted in years prior. Because that's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, so I'm going to try for people that are watching. We did rounds 1 through 4 of a mock draft last week. The three of us, Ted, myself, and Matt, taking 3 teams and leaving 1 team to auto pick, really just best available player and things like that. I'm going to try and share the screen. Let's see if that works. So people can get caught up. And let's see if they see that. So who knows about that?
That is high tech.
Whoa.
Wait, you guys can see it or no?
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
I love
But
the
now I
camera
can't see the
going
list of
on.
players.
Yeah. I'm actually just waiting to see if it pops up on the live feed.
This
But
is
who knows?
rapidly making me obsolete. So
Well, to be
And I actually
fair.
downloaded this digital timer. So.
yeah, okay. You guys have fun. Pick 41's on the clock.
All right, so you guys can see that.
Do you have any thoughts
but we
about
also-
V8, Connor?
About what?
That's one V8. That's one way that you can join the conversation.
Yeah,
New
Nope.
sponsor.
yeah. Oh man, eat vitamins and minerals, vegetables and fruits, whatever.
All right, so if this is all right, we'll get rid of that. So we all have our sheets up here, right?
I got my
I
sheet up.
posted I posted that thing in the chat, Connor, so you can pull it up if you haven't already.
What, the big board?
Thanks, Jeff. That's good. Jeff just texted me and let me know that the screen does pop up. All right,
like that.
appreciate that. It's
Nice,
nice to
you're
know that. Yeah. All right, so let's get continued here. So Matt, you're on the clock with team. You also had the first overall pick, right? Let's
Waiting a week
run
to say
down.
that, Mike, but it's fine. It's cool.
Well, I wanted to, technical difficulties here, Connor.
Okay.
You got 5
Um,
seconds to make a pick, Matt. So.
Yeah, right. So this is team one here, picking first in the fifth round. Started with McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, Kenny Galladay. Then I wanted to jump into to the quarterback game and get Dak Prescott because I like I don't know. He was number 2 last year. I think with McCarthy, he's going to be great this year. So now I could go a couple ways. Zach Ertz is still on the board. There's a couple intriguing wide receivers. I'm going to go for a guy that may not jump out at a lot of people, but I kind of think he's been a steady producer the last few years, and that's Chris Carson. Last year he had 9 games with 20 plus touches. I mean, part of that was because Rashard Penny was injured a little bit. But there's a difference between Carson and Penny, even when they're both on the field. Carson is the de facto lead back. And he was the top 5 in the NFL in carries and yards after contact. So I like and the Seahawks have only committed to Carson this year too. So I think in the 5th round getting like a bona fide starter at running back is pretty good to add to the 2 running backs I have on this team already.
Sure. Yeah, I love the pick of Carson. He has been a player that I've avoided his entire time in the league because I never really felt that he was that good. But last year really changed my mind about that. He's a strong, powerful runner. He's not Marshawn Lynch, but he's damn near close. I mean, look at the guy's biceps. I mean, he's huge. He's jacked, and he can run very fast and very powerful. But they did just sign Carlos Hyde, who is a very talented runner in himself. So he could eat into a lot of the carries down there up there in the Seattle backfield. So team 2 up here, 2nd overall pick was Saquon Barkley, took Chris Godwin in the 2nd round, Travis Kelce in the 3rd, and AJ Brown at wide receiver in the 4th. So have some holes. There's a couple guys still available here. DJ Moore, Melvin Gordon is still available. Zach Ertz is still on the board, and there's a couple of wide receivers left that I could play as well here to pair with Chris Godwin and AJ Brown. So I'm going to go with the best available running back, which in my eyes would be Melvin Gordon. I just think at that point, pairing him with a guy like Saquon Barkley, you have 2 running back 1 caliber players that you're rostering right away, and getting a starter at running back in the 5th round. I think that's huge.
Very nice. I like both those picks, both solid, proven performers. For this team 3, I'm going to go a different direction. I drafted Alvin Kamara in the 1st round, paired him with Miles Sanders in the 2nd, and then grabbed a couple wide receivers in Odell Beckham and Tyler Lockett in the 3rd and 4th. So I have 2 of each of the important skill positions, and I'm going to grab a 3rd running back. But I'm going to go for the unproven but high ceiling Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I will take him
Somebody's
off the
gonna take
board.
him.
He is, we've been sour on him, and I don't think that I still think he's over ranked, but I like anyone on the Chiefs, and they picked him in was at the end of the first round for a reason to get him in the game. So here in the fifth, I'll take him.
Team 4 is up. That's me again. And just to go to your point, Ted, he is overly ranked, but I think right here in the fifth, even the sixth round, I think is perfect value for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You're taking a shot on a rookie. They still have Damian Williams back there, who I'm seeing going in like rounds 14 or 15, which just seems a little bit unfair. I mean, that guy really should have been the Super Bowl MVP with his performance there. But still talented, and especially this being a PPR league, he's adds a lot of value there.
So he's projected at what, like 26 ADP, like that, like
Yeah.
overall. I mean, obviously that's
Yeah,
pretty funny, but that's, I mean, could be a steal, like a real steal actually. So.
Absolutely, in the fifth round, I think that's a perfect time to take a flyer on a rookie like that, given the offense that he's in. So team 4, very running back heavy team here. Ezekiel Elliott, Josh Jacobs in the second, Nick Chubb, and Allen Robinson at wide receiver. I'm not entirely comfortable with Allen Robinson at receiver, but he saw 124 targets last year, which I just think is huge. And Nick Foles is there, so he brings a lot of legitimacy to the quarterback room. Other receivers that I could look here, DJ Moore is still available, but as last week's video, none of us are very high on him, and we just don't know what's happening in Carolina. I'm avoiding him at all costs, so I'm not taking him. Zach Ertz and even a guy like Calvin Ridley are intriguing here, and that's probably the way that I'm going to go. Is I'm going to grab a proven tight end in Zach Ertz, who I know will have over 100 targets and get a lot of looks in the red zone as well.
And Mike, who does Calvin Ridley play for?
I believe that would be the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, sorry, I had some brain fart there for a second. Matt, you're on the clock, pal.
All right. So this team took Aaron Jones and Leonard Fournette in the first 2 rounds, and then Juju Smith-Schuster and Keenan Allen. So pretty balanced team. Kind of like Courtland Sutton here. I think he's kind of due for a big breakout year. I also think maybe DJ Moore finally has to come off the board. But I'm not going to do either of those things. I'm going to take the more exciting player and take Deshaun Watson and just kind of elevate this team.
Great pick.
To be as exciting as possible.
I like it. It's like you said, it's a well-balanced team, and putting a stud quarterback in there, you've got 5 guys that should all produce and can all be a 30-point
For sure. He's pretty good at football.
Any given week. So yeah, he's a highlight reel. He's a walking highlight reel for sure. All right. So because I'm feeling spicy tonight, team 6, I'm going to take possibly the most defensive move I could, but I'm in a position where I can, and I like what I'm looking at. And I'm going to double up. This is a team. I've got Michael Thomas, Kenyon Drake, George Kittle, and James Conner. And I'm going to pair Kittle with Mark Andrews and grab 2 of the top 5 tight ends and just screw all of you because I'm going to have 2 solid options every given week. And our league has 2 flex positions in addition to the tight end. So there's always a spot for another one. But I think there's a lot of loss at that position as you get deeper into the draft, and having 2 of them is an asset.
Mm-hmm.
So the kid from Vegas is actually looking pretty good right now, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, tight ends dropping like flies. Okay, right along.
That is a spicy move, but I like it. So,
the old 2 tight end setup. But it's like, it really is. It's so thin that like if you have 2, that waiver wire just becomes extra extra painful for everyone.
Yeah,
and
also
both of these
bait.
players could produce it's trade bait, like leverage, and either could produce as much as like the other wide receivers I have options of drafting at this position. So
fair enough. All right, so we got auto pick coming up, who I mean, the highest player on the board is DJ Moore. I would love to see him just be on the board so I can stop talking about him.
That sounds like
think
an
I
auto
would
draft pick.
I think DJ
Yeah.
Moore is a great
You're
pick.
that low
it's
on him? I'm not that low on
Yeah.
DJ Moore.
No, and we shouldn't be. Like, it's his now. This will be his third year in the league, and last year he caught 80 plus catches. So yeah, a new quarterback in Bridgewater, but like he's shown that he can produce. I
Somebody's
think
got to catch the ball down there. So
in the fifth round. I mean, I think that's a pretty good.
And
it's a pretty
and
good
the
value.
way that this team is building out, just to recap, Dalvin Cook was taken in the first round, DeAndre Hopkins in the second, Lamar Jackson in the third. So that's essentially 2 running backs already. Adam Thielen in the fourth, and now DJ Moore. So your stable of wide receivers is looking pretty good. If DJ Moore is your third wide receiver or even a flex play, I think that's good value for him this year. I'm not looking to start him, honestly, in one of my 2 wide receiver spots. But flex, I think, is perfect for a player like that.
Okay.
All right. So
what do you think, Matt?
now here's this team again. Joe Mixon and then 3 wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, and Cooper Kupp, who now that I have a week to think about it, I mean, that's 3 pretty good wide receivers.
That's a
Might
big
go
team.
running back here, huh?
So-
I don't know. Just
So I mean, I'm tempted by Cortland Sutton because I think he's due for like a great year. I mean, he looks like a bona fide star. Like, his hands are fantastic. He's a great route runner. He
Big
goes up
body,
and catches
too.
the ball. And I think Drew Lock is good for him because he'll just throw him the ball. And Sutton is good enough to make the play. And he's now the de facto number 1. Emmanuel Sanders is long gone. That said, I like the upside, and based on I don't like drafting for need, but this team does need another running back. I'm gonna take Devin Singletary from Buffalo because he showed a lot last year. I think he's a relatively safe pick. There's not a lot in the way of a backup for him or competition for carries. And I think they like so much about what they saw last year that they're going to continue to build around him in the future. So I feel pretty good at Singletary in the 5th round.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
hey,
Singletary is maybe one of the last like sure thing starters that we're looking at in the running back position. So that's like
Maybe.
that's a pretty good pickup there. I'm gonna just take your other analysis and draft Cortland Sutton. I mean, I agree with all of it, but also now I know that you're hot on him. I'm not going to let him slide to you on the way back. But I mean, this team I've got 3 running backs in Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, and David Johnson, and I'm just sitting on Amari Cooper. So an emerging Cortland Sutton sounds like a great fifth player for this team.
That's awesome. I mean, Cooper and Sutton, Henry and Eckler, and then David Johnson is almost like a flyer at this point.
That's
Like,
a
yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Pretty good team there. All right. So rounding out the 5th round, pick 50. This team is drafted Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and Le'Veon Bell, respectively. So we get another turn here. We could go either way. We could grab another running back, could grab another wide receiver. Again, we use 2 flex positions. Looking at players available, Calvin Ridley is there. He's out of the question because I already have Julio Jones bye week. That would not be good. Then you're struggling to find a wide receiver, although the potential is there for a pretty good combo. Raheem Mostert is available. T.Y. Hilton, who I'm not that high on this year, just injury concerns and things like that. Even though he is a very talented wide receiver, I don't think he gets a lot as far as receptions. Robert Woods is a very good talent. Tyler Lockett was someone that I would have targeted, but he's off the board. I'm going to go with a running back here. I think Mark Ingram is still in a very good place in Baltimore, where they want to run the football. The dual threat quarterback is there, and he's going to see a lot of open lanes, and they love him in the red zone. Even with J.K. Dobbins there, I still think he's going to be he's going to get a very healthy amount of shares at the running back position.
after
just
the
real
first
quick,
5 minutes of the show, I'm kind of surprised you didn't go with Raheem Mostert there, but that's,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I
I-
mean, that's a question mark now.
Ingram produced with Kamara in New Orleans from a fantasy perspective too, so I wouldn't be that concerned about a rookie this year.
If there's one thing we know for sure, it's that Baltimore is going to run the football. So it doesn't hurt. And in the 5th round, I'll take that. Now, on the turn, I would like to get another wide receiver here, although there's someone here that I really like in Darren Waller. He's a very talented tight end, and he would round this team out very nicely as far as balance and a starting lineup. But there's also another intriguing player here at wide receiver that I do like even more, and that's DK Metcalf. And watching him train this offseason with Russell Wilson, he just looks good and he looks poised to have a really good season. The guy, as a rookie, had 100 targets last year, which not a lot of people know about. And if Russell Wilson's looking that much to a rookie receiver, just wait for year 2 when he's had a little bit more time to learn the offense and things like that. So I love DK. He's a big time red zone threat. He can score from anywhere on the field, and pairing him with Julio Jones and Tyreek Hill, who are pulverizing players at the wide receiver position, I think that's a pretty good combo to have.
So Mike, the knock on him was just well, not the knock, but like the route running is just the thing that he needs to continue to improve upon. But other than that, like
I think his route running is pretty solid. They have a pretty good wide receivers coach up there in Seattle, but people knock him for the 3-cone drill just because he ran such a terrible time. But what people don't realize, like the 3-cone drill during the combine, he fell. That's why his time was so bad. So he can move. Watch the guy run. He's a flyer. He's not just a go route. He can do it all.
Okay.
He's probably not going to run a whip route, but don't worry about it.
All right.
So Team 9 is gonna piggyback again. Now I'm happy with my wide receiver room, at least the start of it, with Amari Cooper and Cortland Sutton. Obviously, my running backs are strong, and if both Seattle receivers are off the board and the passes have to come from somewhere, so I'm gonna throw Russell Wilson onto this team and make sure I've got a rock solid quarterback in the lineup.
All right.
Yeah,
Russell.
there's a drop off from quarterbacks after Russell Wilson. I think when we were going through our quarterback rankings, we all kind of lumped these guys together.
Yeah.
So well, I'm
top 4
glad
off the board
that Darren Waller is still on the board. I'm going to take him here for this team with Mixon, Singletary, Adams, Evans, and Kupp, and now adding Darren Waller, who had his breakout year last year and is only poised to continue on that. Could be a top 3 tight end this year. So here in the 6th round, I like that.
It's one of the guys from Hard Knocks where you just kind of watched that tape and you're like, oh, this guy's going to be really good. And he seems to be pretty focused. So that was kind of a pretty good forecast.
He's really a matchup nightmare. I mean, we talked about it not at length, but I mean, out of Georgia Tech, he was a wide receiver. So at 6'6", he runs and at the tight end position, he's 6'6" and runs a 4.4 40. I mean, the guy, linebackers are going to have a hard time keeping up with him, and the safeties who are fast enough to keep up with him are not big enough to really cover him. So
a guy that will probably go undrafted here, but I think we could be having the same conversation about him 2 or 3 years down the road. Teddy should be happy about this. Is Chase Claypool. I really think he might not morph into that tight end position, but he's a guy that's going to be a problem as far as like his speed and his size is just insane.
It's funny you would bring up Chase Claypool. What college did he go to again?
Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
And here with the auto pick, let's go with Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
Give me Clausen. All right.
Yeah. So here's an interesting little debate for the auto pick, because he's got Dalvin Cook. He's got 3 wide receivers. Not he, could be a she, whatever auto pick is. So the best available player is Calvin Ridley. Then behind that, you got Robert Woods. So Jonathan Taylor is the next available running back, and Raheem Mostert. So we don't know here, but auto pick. I actually did a full auto pick today that we can talk about later. But I don't know. What do you guys like here for the auto pick team?
I don't.
You almost have to go a running back.
Jonathan Taylor could be good.
Yeah.
I mean, you pick him over David Montgomery at running back?
Well, somebody's got a lot to prove in Chicago, this year. But Jonathan Taylor was kind of a beast in college, and I think he could slide in really nicely. Who's he competing with? Marlon Mack?
Marlon Mack,
Yeah.
who has played pretty well the
Yeah,
last couple of years. And Montgomery does a different thing than Tariq Cohen in Chicago. And so
he
there's
doesn't
likely
catch the ball well, though. That's like
It's not what he's there for, but so
it's a
I guess
tricky one for
Jonathan
this
Taylor
auto
here.
draft. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should default to net
The
highest
rankings.
ranked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Alright.
definitely in the running back vein. So
Jonathan Taylor it is. Now, again, for me personally, I think Jonathan Taylor kind of falls into the same category as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as his value is just being ballooned just because the Colts draft him. They still have Marlon Mack there. And guess what? They have another guy by the name of Nyheim Hines, who is also very good and very good at catching the football, which means he'll be in there on third down. So Jonathan Taylor, yes, he's young. They'll probably use him more. Marlon Mack, I put a post out about this the other day. Marlon Mack had over 200 carries, 200 rushing attempts. I believe it was right around 217, 230, something like that. 0 fumbles last year.
wow,
That's impressive.
that's sure hands.
Sure hands. That's it. All right, Ted, you're up.
All right. So this is an aggressive team with 2 tight ends, 1 receiver, and 2 running backs. So I'm in a little bit of a pickle here because I kind of need running backs and receivers and a quarterback, which also sort of on the flip side puts me in best available player. I, however, am going to go wide receiver. Keep filling out that position. And I'm going to actually reach a little bit, but grab Jarvis Landry. I think
Nice.
that he is a player that's got rock solid hands, rock solid route runner, and is just always in the mix, 110 catches, a little bit unsung. And I guess I'm hoping for a rebound from the Browns a little bit this year.
Yeah, I mean, even throughout the course of last year, Landry was the top wide receiver producer on that team, even as the Browns struggled, even as Mayfield struggled. And it's because, yeah, he's such a good route runner and his hands are so good. It doesn't matter if like another world-class wide receiver is there. Landry just produces year after year. So I think that's smart. So here with this team, I got Deshaun Watson at quarterback, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, and then Juju and Keenan Allen. I'm thinking I'm going to add to the wide receiver depth. Calvin Ridley's on the board. T.Y. Hilton is on the board with Phillip Rivers there. Maybe he's healthy. Maybe that's an intriguing thing there. I'm going to go with Robert Woods, who I feel is always unheralded.
Bastard.
The last 2 years, over 1,200 yards, over 86 catches and 90 catches in each of the last 2 years. His touchdowns were low, which I think mitigated some of or lessened some of his production. He also carried the ball 20 times each of the last 2 years. Robert Woods is like a sneaky fantasy, like number 1 wide receiver. And people just continually forget about him because they're in the past, there was Todd Gurley. That team is flashy, whatever. And Cooper Kupp is a good player, but they throw the ball a ton. Goff is hitting his stride. Robert Woods is going to get a ton of volume, and he's shown that he can produce over the last couple of years.
What is the real knock? Like, what is the real aversion with Woods, though? Is it like touchdown production, or is it
I think for me over the last 2 years, it was just the amount of options that there were in LA, because you had Brandon Cooks, you had Cooper Kupp, and you had Robert Woods, and then you also had Todd Gurley. So at the same time, Jared Goff was just coming up. So I'm talking about the year before the Super Bowl, and even their Super Bowl year, you didn't necessarily know who they were going to be. So there were just concerns about what his volume share was, but I think the last 2 years proved it. And if you look at Robert Woods' stats compared to Calvin Ridley's stats, I mean, they're both on teams with multiple options, and Robert Woods is 400 yards greater in each of the last 2 years, fewer touchdowns. But the volume is there to make that I think put Robert Woods ahead of Calvin Ridley, at least for me.
he doesn't have quite the alpha ahead of him?
Yeah, that's right.
So, okay. All right, Mike.
Yeah, I love Robert Woods. I was actually targeting him there for Team 4. You know, McVay is running this Gruden offense where they really covet 2 equal receivers. I mean, you saw that with Gruden's time when he was in Oakland. with Jerry Rice and Tim Brown. He uses both his starting wide receivers equally, so you got to love both Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And over the last 2-3 years, Jared Goff has been in the top 5 for passing yardage in a quarterback, even with the lackluster season that they had at 9-7 this past year. Still over 1,000 yards for both his receivers. Yeah, the touchdowns weren't there, but still pretty good. So with Team 4, recently drafted Zach Ertz. I have one receiver in Allen Robinson. My gut is saying Calvin Ridley here, but I'm actually not going to take him. Although I do think Calvin Ridley will have a good year. It's not a knock on him. It's just a guy that I do like, and I'm inclined to take players that I really like or who I think will have a good year. So I may reach for him a little bit. Not a lot of people are high on him, but he is a very talented receiver on a very bad team, and that's DJ Shark. He's the typical prototype LSU, but he's big. He's 6'4". He can run. He can high point the ball very well. And with Gardner Minshew down there in Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew had 21 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, threw for over 3,000 yards in the 6 games that he played, which is very good.
On top of that, got Jay Gruden going down there to be his offensive coordinator, or like at least work at him at the quarterback position.
Exactly. So you're going to see DJ Shark really take over as that number 1 wide receiver for what we've known in Jay Gruden's offense when he had guys like, AJ Green, and we saw the numbers that he produced. Yeah. We don't know if DJ Shark will be an AJ Green type player, but he definitely fits the mold, and he definitely can produce at that level.
Cool. Teddy?
All right. So Team 3 is 3 receivers and 3 running backs and 2 receivers. So I feel a little bit stuck because the running backs that are available right now are not popping out at me as values. There's a question mark around all of them. DeAndre Swift is a rookie and competing for carry as Kareem Hunt is in a timeshare. Raheem Mostert is now requesting a trade, so we don't really know where he's going. So I'm going to play it safe and kind of go with a best available situation, which leaves me between Calvin Ridley and T.Y. Hilton, and I'm going to grab Hilton. I also like Ridley, but I'm going with a little bit of a hope that Phillip Rivers can make a Keenan Allen out of T.Y. Hilton. A little bit of speculation, no real depth to this analysis, except that we've got a Hall of Fame quarterback stepping into the quarterback room and a guy that's produced every year. So, yeah,
I like Hilton.
Do you guys believe that Phillip Rivers? I heard some comments this past week about Phillip Rivers being done, washed up, but I feel like he's got plenty of not plenty, but he's definitely got some life left in him. How do you guys feel about him in Indianapolis?
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, his issues last year were based in turnovers. He killed his team in the red zone. And it's not about him being able to, I mean, his arm strength has dwindled a little bit. And you certainly saw that in some of the, he's just trying to force the ball into situations where he doesn't have the arm strength to do it anymore. Maybe Frank Reich, being a former quarterback, is going to be able to talk some sense into him, give him some plays that make a little bit more sense. I don't anticipate him being that much of a difference from Jacoby Brissett, who I liked last year. So I don't really understand the move from Indianapolis. I don't think it's going to hurt the Colts at all. I just don't really understand it, I guess.
I think he gets the ball out quicker, but unfortunately he does make a lot of turnovers happen. Especially in really inopportune times. Anyway, Mike, Team 1.
Just to touch on Phillip Rivers real quick before I get into the pick, I think he's in a much better place offensively, scheme-wise, to where he is at this point in his career. In Los Angeles, the Chargers were running a lot of heavy play action, screen, and then deep downfield passes, which Phillip Rivers used to have one of the strongest arms in the league, but he's just not there right now. Now he's going to a type of situation where use a lot of play action, a little bit of the run pass option, even though Phillip Rivers is definitely not going to be that running quarterback. it's still a lot of throws close to the line of scrimmage and utilizing the tight end a lot, which Phillip Rivers has been very good at over the course of his career. So I think it'll be a bit of a resurgence for him. Hopefully, you hate to see him fail his last 2 years because he's a guy that you want to root for.
I really like Phillip Rivers, and I'm rooting for him just because I think he's a big competitor.
I think he has a
good dude.
resurgence. I don't see him going out on a low note. Like, so I kind of side with Mike on this one.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to the draft, team 2 here, lots and lots of speed and talent on this team. Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin at wide receiver, AJ Brown as well at wide receiver, Travis Kelce at tight end, and just added Melvin Gordon, who was one of the faster running backs coming out. So, I mean, best available player, Calvin Ridley, who's also a burner and can score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to see a lot of man coverage, considering all the weapons that they have down there in Atlanta. I'm lucky that he fell to this team, and I like the way this team is rounding out, especially in the wide receiver position. A lot of potential.
Well, congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Don't be upset because you were looking at him, Matt.
I was looking at both Hilton and Ridley because now with this team,
you have no wide receivers.
I got Prescott. I got 3 running backs: McCaffrey, Gurley, and Carson, and then Kenny Golladay. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go back-to-back wide receivers here. One guy I didn't think you guys were going to take, but I've been high on him all offseason is Devontae Parker in Miami because he came on super strong last year. I think he's just he's over 100 catches this year. He had 9 touchdowns last year. I think he's going to continue that pace. Whether it's Fitzpatrick or Tua, I think his talent exceeds whatever situation he's going to be in. So I like Devontae Parker with the first pick there. And then I'm sort of left with a couple options. There's Stephon Diggs. There's Terry McLaurin in Washington. I don't know what that quarterback situation is going to shake out to be, so I'm a little bit concerned. And then AJ Green is really, really tempting right now. But I'm going to stick with the guy who has produced, who's on a new team. I'm not so concerned about Josh Allen getting him the ball because Josh Allen is a gunslinger and he'll throw him the ball. I think it'd actually be like a match made in heaven. Those two guys, Stephon Diggs and his speed running all over the field, and then Josh Allen just throwing him lasers, being able to elude the pocket and finding him when he's open. So I kind of like the potential of Stephon Diggs as the third wide receiver on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Terry McLaurin, I feel like you draw like parallels between Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore in Carolina. Like somebody has to catch the ball down there. Like somebody's going to get touchdowns. Right. Somebody's going to get passes. You know what I mean? So I feel like he's also at this point in the 7th round, I feel like he could be a value get as well. But obviously Diggs is a proven guy, and hopefully you see a progression this year from the quarterback there, Josh Allen.
Yeah, there's I think Kyle Allen coming into Washington, just real quick, Kyle Allen coming to Washington adds a little bit of uncertainty. And I like Terry McLaurin, but you also saw Steven Sims Jr. last year come on really strong late. And he's not going to be a guy that we're going to get to in these first 8 rounds, but I would definitely recommend him taking him in the later rounds because he was such a part of that offense last year. And if he comes on, maybe that takes away some of that volume that Terry McLaurin had last year.
Yeah. Even Trey Quinn as a slot receiver, he did pretty well there in Washington as well. He's a hands guy. He's not going to burn you down the field, but he's a good third down option for whoever is at quarterback on that team, on the Washington team. We won't actually call them what they are.
It's crazy. They could be something totally different, like tomorrow.
Could be.
I'm hoping for the FC. That would be awesome.
That would be cool. I heard that the other day. I think it was Pat McAfee who came out with that. I thought that was pretty neat. All right. So team 2 just took Calvin Ridley to, fill in a flex position, and I'm feeling very comfortable with him. I probably would actually move him to wide receiver 2 and AJ Brown to the flex. Not that that's important or anything. But right here coming around the turn, I have a couple options. Stephon Diggs was another guy that I was targeting, and some of the other guys there, like David Montgomery, is a serious option. I'm going to stay away from Raheem Mostert for the time being, just given the news that has come out. I could use a little more depth at running back, given Barkley's injury last year, Melvin Gordon's history of injury. So I think David Montgomery has a lot to prove in Chicago, and I think he fills a need at backup running back for me.
Okay, David Montgomery.
Yeah.
Teddy, what you thinking, man?
Not a flashy pick, but he has to get drafted.
That's right.
So this is now an incredibly well balanced team with 3 running backs and 3 receivers. So I'm going to branch out on my positions and lock me in a tight end. It's clear I like me my tight ends.
Oh, we know you like a good tight end, Ted.
But no, a little bit of a crazy time to take quarterbacks given the drop off after Wilson. I'm going to reach a little bit down the tight end board. I'm contemplating Evan Ingram. I like his potential, but there's a little bit of like injury concern with him. The next 2 are Gronkowski and Hunter Henry. Gronk is also old, has injuries and coming back from losing 25 pounds. We don't know really what to expect with him. So I am going to grab Hunter Henry. Even if he is working with a new man under center, I think that he's proven to sort of be quarterback proof. Not that he had to prove that very much, but he gets open. He's a big target. He's got good hands. And I think that a Chargers team with what's his face is gonna
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod, thank you. Yeah, Tyrod is gonna see the tight end get some more targets. Thank you.
That's a vote of confidence. What's his face is gonna do a hell of a job.
I could see him throw the ball. I just couldn't remember his name.
I actually really like Hunter Henry this year. And people knock him just because Phillip Rivers isn't there. But I actually think having Tyrod Taylor benefits Hunter Henry. And Matt actually brought this point up a couple weeks ago in one of our videos that when and I always harp on this, to look into the future, you have to take a look into the past. And when Tyrod was producing his 3 years in Buffalo before he got shipped out, he had very good success there. And one of his top targets was Charles Clay. Yeah. I mean, at the tight end position. And he found him early and often, and he was a chain mover, and he did very well. So I think Hunter Henry, who's a much more talented tight end than Charles Clay was, I think he should do pretty well in that offense. Moving on, team 4. I am going to take a bit of a shot on an unproven player here. And I think the way that this team has kind of built itself out, I had the opportunity to take that. I have guys who I know are going to get 20 points a game. So I feel comfortable at this point in the draft taking a shot on a guy who could do well, who may not do well, but who knows? If he does well, that's a lot of points. And I think Kyler Murray at quarterback is a perfect fit for this team that I'm building right here. And I think the potential is there in a pass-happy offense. Bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, you still have Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk is still there, and people forget they drafted Andy Isabella, who was one of the fastest receivers 2 years ago coming out of college. So I like Kyler Murray. He can run the football. Oh, jeez. Oh,
God bless you, Matt. Wow.
All right, Kyler Murray. That's it.
Please continue.
Everything okay there, Matt? Do you need an extra minute of time to readjust and then make
it just collects dust and then it gets sucked up into my nose and then I have to sneeze it all out. All right.
Okay, Matt, you're on the clock.
I just feel like there's a smorgasbord of options at this point. So this team again is pretty balanced. Watson, and then Keenan Allen, Woods, and Juju Smith-Schuster, then Aaron Jones and Leonard Fournette. So I'm not like going to jump at a tight end right now. So now I'm just building up my bench. And so the options are DeAndre Swift, Terry McLaurin, Cam Akers, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, who has done nothing but produce and continues to fall down the charts. Julian Edelman with Cam Newton now all of a sudden. Will Fuller, who's the number one wide receiver. I mean, injuries, who knows? But he's the number one wide receiver in Houston. So I don't know what to do. I'm gonna take the guy who I think has the biggest upside. And I always like to take one of these guys on each of my on a team. And I'm gonna take Cam Akers because I think he has the greatest opportunity in Los Angeles to be that next Todd Gurley piece. He did nothing but produce in college. And he's going to be given every opportunity to perform there. So there's other guys that are going to be more proven. I could look like an idiot for taking this, but he's on my bench, so I'm willing to start taking risks at this point.
Yeah.
Righty. Cam Akers.
Nice.
Moving right along, Teddy.
This is a pick I have been looking forward to make for the past 2 rounds. Well, so as a recap, this is a team that's got Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry as my receivers, George Kittle and Mark Andrews as my 2 tight end set, Kenyon Drake and James Conner in the backfield. So I'm going to go and grab a little bit more depth in my running back room with the only player I like out of the Tampa Bay Brady Buccaneers, which is Ronald Jones II. I don't see why he won't double his catches this year. I don't think he's got a whole lot of competition. He's a young player. And as we said, Tom Brady always finds the running backs out of the backfield. I like a guy who I think is going to get 20 touches a game with Tom Brady. So
you're low on Keyshawn Vaughn then?
I am low on Keyshawn Vaughn.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
And I think that's really a tale of the tape. Ronald Jones, Bruce Arians really liked him towards the end of last season. That's where you saw a lot of his production. He really began to trust him. And Bruce Arians has never really utilized rookie running backs in his system because his system is heavy pass and a lot of deep passes, which means that running backs a lot of the time are staying in to pass protect, which a lot of people don't realize. So rookies, it takes an extra year or 2 for them coming into the league to really learn how to pass protect in the NFL. So I think Ronald Jones is going to be the featured back there going forward. I don't think Keyshawn Vaughn is a major threat to him. So I like good things out of him this year. All right, so we're up to auto pick. So Raheem Mostert is there on the board, and I think that's a good fit for him.
Wow, you hate auto draft. Jeez, man.
Well, it's the best available player.
Yeah, but we don't know what his contract status is going to be.
True. But if this is auto draft and it's a computer picking, you're taking human instinct out of this. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Matt, team 3?
I don't know.
Keyshawn Vaughn. Tampa Bay.
This team has Mixon and Singletary at running back, and then Adams, Evans, Kupp at wide receiver, then Darren Waller. So good pass catchers, not great at running back. Terry McLaurin is the proven commodity. DeAndre Swift is the risk, but he fills a need for this running back needy team. Tyler Boyd, I can't add Tyler Boyd or AJ Green. I can't add another Bengal to this team until they're better. So I'm just going to build on strength. Sometimes I like to do that because then it if you place all your eggs in one basket and there's injuries or whatever, you kind of want to be able to fall back on the depth there. So I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin, who's the more proven commodity with DeAndre Swift.
All right.
Scary Terry.
Ted.
Yeah. So Terry McLaurin is a guy I have my eye on. Because this team needs another receiver in a big way. Obviously Debo is going to be out for a month or 2. I agree with the assessment on AJ Green and Tyler Boyd. I just can't trust Bengals and rookie quarterbacks, which puts the remaining guy in this tier, which is Marquise Brown, on my radar, and I actually don't hate the pick, and I'm going to go with Marquise Brown as a poor man's Terry McLaurin. I think he's shifty. Someone has to catch the ball. The Ravens did produce last year. He didn't have great numbers, but he did find the end zone. And I expect Jackson to develop a little bit as a passer. So I'm hoping that sort of like leads to more targets Brown's way and maybe deeper targets than last year. I think the guy is talented. He's one of the scary players when I watch him play against the Steelers. So I'm going to go on that.
So has anybody else aside from Amari Cooper come off, on the board in the wide receiving core for the Cowboys?
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's a good point.
I mean, Michael Gallup
I
is
like
coming
Marquise
up.
Brown. It wasn't an indictment on him. It was just that they just.
No,
seem
but
to-
we're getting into Michael Gallup territory, I think.
People are kind of ridiculously high on CeeDee Lamb. I don't know how he gets touches behind Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, but he was a beast in college. So
Yeah, he's pretty buried on our board still. Yeah. But I agree. I've seen a lot of scuttlebutt on CeeDee Lamb being threatening to be the top receiver.
I mean, he's so good in college, but he is the third wide receiver on that team.
Yeah, and it can take rookies. I mean, DK Metcalf took 6-7 games to get into a swing, and
yeah.
I mean, third receiver and then fourth option, right? I mean, you've got
Zeke. Yeah, right, Zeke. Yeah.
So it's and a quarterback who's not exactly he's not Tom Brady in his prime, throwing the ball around. So I don't know.
I think you're really negative on Dak, and I'm taking it personally because I like Dak.
Well, I hope Cowboys fans just shove it down their throat. Anyway, Mike, team 3 on the board here, on the clock, I should say.
Yeah. So rounding out the 7th round, get nice 2 picks back to back, and this team pretty. Yeah. Oh, this team is pretty wide receiver heavy. Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, but we have some strong, talented potential running backs in Le'Veon Bell and Mark Ingram, and also got the $500 million man in Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. So really, I'm just looking to build depth. I still have a hole at tight end, which I may pick with one of these picks. But I think, running back is definitely a position of need, especially some depth behind Bell and Ingram. So I think the obvious choice here would be Kareem Hunt, but I don't like the backfield that he's in, but I'm going to take him here just because I think he is the more talented runner and provides better options for the offense that Stefanski likes to run, which is your one-cut runner. And he also adds a lot of value in the pass game, which Chubb doesn't necessarily bring to the table. So Kareem Hunt, backup running back in the 7th round, I'll take that. And building on my team, I do need a tight end. I really like Evan Ingram. He has one of the highest points per game from any tight end. It's just major injury concern. The guy has never really played an entire season, but I do like his potential. So with that being said, I'm going Rob Gronkowski right here just because why the F not?
I don't know, because he's not going to catch anything, and there's like a million other receivers on that team.
Hey,
yeah, but I don't think he comes out of retirement, gets traded to the Buccaneers, and he's been training with Tom all offseason. I don't think he comes out of retirement to just catch 30 or 40 passes. I think he's high volume, 60 receptions, gets in the end zone 7-8 times.
Yeah, but that's what he caught in his last year with the Patriots too. And does Bill Belichick just let these guys go?
Come on, he's not gonna just hang out there on the line.
Hey, plus you have to think he had nagging injuries right through his last couple years in New England. A couple botched surgeries. He's had the entire year off. Concerns about his weight that he's lost so much of it, but I actually think that helps him as a receiver and actually probably hurts him as a run blocker, which is what he kind of transitioned to his last couple of years in New England. I think he's going to be lighter. He's going to be more agile, which means he's going to get open a lot easier. I mean, I think back to the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs 2 years ago, in that big third down play where he was lined up against Eric Berry, and we all knew it was going to Gronk, especially lined up there one-on-one. He looked slow. He still caught the ball because Eric Berry was so bad in man-man coverage, but I think you're going to see a lighter, faster, more agile Gronk in Tampa Bay.
Mike, who's tight end 2 then? Who's the blocking tight end?
In Tampa?
Yeah.
Cameron Brate. I think OJ Howard gets the axe. He may be a camp casualty because they should have tried to put him on the block, but maybe they couldn't get anything for him. So who knows?
I don't know. I need to see it to believe it that Gronk is better than Brate or Howard at this point in his
At
career.
this point, you're just picking a fight with Rob Schneider. So I just want you to be aware that's coming your way. So
Yeah. All right, whatever. Move on.
Teddy,
Well, this Team 9's a real copycat kind of guy. And I'm going to follow along in the tight end footsteps and take the left behind Evan Ingram off the board.
Yeah, that's what you should have done.
Yeah, a team needs a tight end, and I'm resigning myself to waiting on a quarterback here, and then actually on all my. Oh no, actually this one has Russell Wilson. So yeah, that actually fills it out quite well. I feel like there's probably some good wide receivers on the board that I'm a little sad to pass up here in round 8, but Evan Ingram feels like the last of the proven tight ends. So
okay.
I like it.
Yep. So now this team doesn't have a quarterback, but I think I'm just going to build up on talent, and then I think most of the teams in this league right now have quarterbacks. Like seven teams have quarterbacks, and I'm willing to wait on Roethlisberger and Matt Ryan and Drew Brees and Cam Newton and Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill, all these guys that are still on the board, that I can get like multiple of those guys in the next few rounds and like mitigate some of the risk there.
Now I know all the guys you like, so thanks for that.
So I'm gonna get like a skill position player here. AJ Green is tempting, but this team has too many wide receivers. Regardless of signing Cam Newton or not, this team, the Patriots, were always going to run the ball. So it's the question of Sony Michel or James White. James White catches so many more passes. I'm going to go with him as now like an insurance, a guy that I can plug and play almost any week, I think.
Okay.
I actually really like that pick. And one thing I wanted to bring up tonight, because I figured we'd get to these players, is that, and you kind of touched on this earlier with Julian Edelman, James White, and Sony Michel, they are now elevated because Cam Newton is in town.
No doubt.
All right, so we got auto pick, DeAndre Swift.
What? They're all elevated?
Yeah.
Because Cam Newton's in town?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry that the logic is kind of escaping me. So
Well, as opposed to Jared
Stidham.
okay, all right.
Not Tom Brady.
Yeah.
All right. I just beat my pants there a little bit. All right, cool. Yeah, auto pick.
Yeah. So we got, let's see, highest available player would be DeAndre Swift, but this team is looking at 3 running backs right now. Could use a receiver. I think AJ Green is there. That would fill out pretty nicely.
3 running backs, 3 receivers, and a quarterback.
Could go tight end.
Yeah, tight end would be Tyler Higbee, who I like, but I don't know here.
That's not bad.
Is the right choice. I don't know. With 3 running backs and 3 receivers, I'd probably go with Swift, who's highest on the board.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see that.
DeAndre Swift, Detroit Lions. Auto pick.
Boom.
All right. Ted, you're up, man.
All right. So I agree completely with the assessment that I am going to sit around and wait for quarterbacks to come back to me in the 12th and 13th round and continue to build up my skill positions. I'm still a little bit thin at wide receiver on this team, which is actually kind of a good position to be in at this stage of the draft. There's a lot of pretty decent options out there, and Tyler Boyd and Michael Gallup and Julian Edelman. But I am I want to take Edelman, but I'm worried about the quarterback situation. I want to take Gallup, but I'm worried about the too many mouths to feed situation. So I'm going to slide a little bit further down the board and grab a guy that we've spoken about on previous shows as one of our favorite sleeper unsung heroes in Marvin Jones, and pick up another high floor kind of guy that can fill out my receiver room, which features Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry. So I've got like a pretty solid floor at receiver. And I'm hoping for some magic, I guess, on my running backs or something.
So is the only concern with Marvin Jones at this point just age? I mean, because you've got your quarterback coming back, and then, I mean, but he's obviously a proven guy year in, year out.
And he's also proven to not be your, like, 1,350-yard, 10-touchdown guy either. He's, like, going to get you just decent production.
But in this round, I think that's, that's a good pick. All right.
Yeah, like I imagine 11.2 per week from him or something, and that's like fine. He's not the sort that takes a game off, and he's definitely not relying on 50-yard bombs to get points. He'll be like having 6 catches for 62 yards.
Yeah. Having Stafford back healthy, if he plays the whole season, Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay combined for 20 touchdowns last year, and that was with Stafford missing 8 games. So they had second and third string quarterbacks throwing the ball, and they're still finding their way into the end zone. Now adding a guy like DeAndre Swift to the backfield with Kerryon Johnson, revamping the offensive line, the sky's the limit for both those receivers.
Well, Matt?
All right, so this team has this team has there's no more Packers to take. This team has Deshaun Watson and then 3
Evan Funchess, dude.
Yeah, right. 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers. I don't feel like going after the tight ends that are available now. I'd rather just wait. So then we're looking at the 2 Bengals receivers again, AJ Green and Tyler Boyd, Michael Gallup, and Julian Edelman, and then maybe Will Fuller. I would throw into that mix. Oh God! So this team, Woods, Allen, and Juju are pretty solid. So I'm gonna feel like I can take a risk and go with AJ Green at this point.
Son of a bitch.
High upside.
Yeah.
Dude, I think that's a fucking steal.
I don't know. I don't think so. Because I got to see him play for a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
But if you can get like a few games of AJ Green level production out of him,
oh yeah,
for an 8th round pick.
The way this draft is going, I mean, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, all the guys that are going to back him up are not getting touched. So I think you're going to be able to take care of that on the waivers once AJ Green goes down like week 4 or 5.
Yeah, right.
With a heel or something like that. So
also, don't forget about John Ross. I mean, before he got hurt last year, he was scoring he had 2 or 3 games with multiple touchdowns. So in that offense, who knows, especially with Joe Burrow there. All right. So this team set at running back. I don't think I can draft any more running backs. I'm very comfortable with them. Maybe another one as insurance a little bit later down the line, because I got Zeke, Josh Jacobs, and Chubb, Allen Robinson and DJ Shark with Zach Ertz and Kyler Murray. So I am definitely in the market for a wide receiver. I was looking at AJ Green there to round out my big bodied wide receivers that I have here. Tough.
It's tough at this
here.
point.
It is. I mean, you really have to ask yourself, all
these guys get muddled together.
Exactly. All right. So I don't think I'm going to have a issue with filling out my starting roster at this point. So I'm going to take a guy. He's injured right now, but he should be back by 2nd, maybe 3rd week of the season. And that's Deebo Samuel. I like what he did his rookie year. He's not only there to catch the ball, but he's also a very good runner, good after the catch, why not take a shot on him here?
Is it really only looking like 2 to 3 weeks of the season, assuming everything stays on schedule? I thought he was out till like October something.
It could be. It all depends on the rehab process. I
I
mean,
thought that
they're
his season was,
literally
like, supposed to come to week 1 basically, and then you would need like 2 to 3 weeks to get back up to speed, I guess. Is that the
exactly, yeah, get his conditioning back up there, which I don't think he'll have a problem with. I mean, the guy's 21 years old, so
Yeah,
conditioning shouldn't be a problem.
He should be able to bounce back if anyone can. I mean, like you said, so the youth. So as for my final pick of the night, it's another one that I've been hoping no one would steal the thunder on.
Lightning and the thunder.
Well, this is kind of maybe a lightning in a lightning situation, but I am going to grab a little bit of insurance and pick up Damian Williams on the team with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so
Very
that
nice.
I can ride whoever the heck is catching the ball or running it, or both, a la the Titans of 2001 or whatever year it was, and just roll with the Chiefs running game. And it's a handcuff. It's a strategic move. I think Damian Williams could be the guy in the beginning of the year.
So is everybody feeling so confident in like Mark Ingram that J.K. Dobbins is like that much of an afterthought in Baltimore?
I wouldn't say he's an afterthought. It's just the value.
Ingram is so productive, and especially with just like getting touchdowns and within the red zone, that he kind of cause you to like shirk from J.K. Dobbins.
It's kind of the same situation that we have going on in Dallas that we were just talking about. There's so many mouths to feed. You have a lot of good receivers, and you have, Mark Andrews at tight end. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is going to throw the ball and run the ball. Then you have Ingram there, who's a proven commodity. And J.K. Dobbins, yeah, he's going to get some touches. And he was arguably the best running back coming out of college this year. So it's just going to – I would take a flyer on him in the later rounds, but outside of that, it's kind of like a wait and see approach.
Okay.
I mean, part of it is, you're sort of the seed is planted based on where players are ranked, and you don't want to reach too far because you can assume that no one's really looking down the list all that far because of the surefire mockery that might come after you.
True.
And then, but when you get to this point in the draft, like Dobbins, I would take him over the running backs around him, and like Jordan Howard or Tariq Cohen, or like these players who sort of know what they're going to bring. Like J.K. Dobbins is like my 9th round pick, like every time, just because Mark Ingram's is an aging veteran, and I love the Ravens and their running game, and he's young, but we don't know anything about him. But
Sure.
But you gotta love that upside. So like I'm not poo-pooing him. I think that it's just, if he were ranked 40th overall, he'd be off the board in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right, Mike.
All right. So with my last pick of the night, a very talented team here: Saquon Barkley, Melvin Gordon, David Montgomery at running back, Chris Godwin, A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley at receiver, and Travis Kelce at tight end. Do need a quarterback, but I feel like I can sit and wait and get another guy. There's no reason to reach for one of these quarterbacks right here. Could use another running back, could use another receiver. I'm going to take a little insurance policy, just like Ted, but not insurance on my own team. I'm going to take insurance for Matt's pick of AJ Green, and I'm going to grab Tyler Boyd here, who's coming off of 2 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Even with AJ Green missing a lot of time during both of those seasons, he still took the X position, which is your number 1 receiver, took the double coverage and everything like that, and still produced. So people aren't too high on him. I'm not high on him myself, but I think he fills a need and he produces. So why not?
Yeah, and here we are in round 8. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
All right, so this number 1 team, I spent a lot of early draft capital on running backs: McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, and Chris Carson, and then I got Dak Prescott. So then I waited on wide receivers, but I ended up with Kenny Galladay, Devontae Parker, and Stephon Diggs. Who knows? I'm going to add to the receiving core and just get a guy who has always produced and has Cam Newton throwing to him, and taking Julian Edelman.
Yep.
At this point. I mean, it makes too much sense to not take him.
Yeah.
I like it. I do have moderate concern over Edelman because like he sort of had like a brain mind meld with Brady. I think that definitely helped
For
him
sure.
overproduce a little bit, but then again, those smarts shouldn't go unnoticed by any quarterback. So
He has a similar, I mean, maybe not similar, but like maybe in his ability to get open, it might be similar to Greg Olson in that he can get open at the last minute. He can run these short routes and then find the open window. And so Cam Newton has that muscle memory to throw those kind of passes. I know that Cam Newton is working out with Sanu right now, but like, I don't know, they'll figure it out. These are like two world-class players.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that Newton and Edelman will figure out some kind of rapport. But I do think you're right. I mean, you look at like Jordy Nelson when he left Green Bay and went to Oakland. He's just like a shell of who he once was because of the relationship that he had with Rodgers.
Also, his injuries. I mean, he was coming off.
He was older,
an Achilles,
but,
right?
I know, but yeah, it's an extreme example, but I think it's a valid point.
Yeah. No, 100%. The quarterback wide receiver relationship is a real thing. There are very few receivers who can transcend that. But when you look at receivers who are so dependent on their quarterback, look, that's not a slight on Edelman because I think he's a very talented route runner, but his work ethic is what made him the way he is. But also Tom Brady really helped with Edelman's development into being the type of receiver that he is. Now, the Stidham-Edelman relationship, no one's intrigued about that. But Cam Newton, who's a very smart quarterback, an MVP quarterback who knows how to read NFL defenses properly, find the open man, I think that helps Edelman's value, especially where we were last week before Cam Newton was signed.
Well, fellas, we certainly covered a lot of ground. Same amount of rounds, tons of insight, considerable information disseminated, and yet we found a way to cut off about a half an hour. I think it was sensational. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to add in, or if there's any more talking points, Mike. But
I would like to just add one little more segment, kind of go through, pick our best and worst team, see if it differed. See if it differed any part from last week. I just think that's kind of
last week was auto, right? Was it like
we all picked the auto. Yeah.
I don't know if auto pick had a great second 4 rounds because that's and maybe that's because that's when like sort of the crux of the draft strategy comes in, is you have to like make these tough decisions between 3 or 4 players across different positions. And if you're just picking the guy who's highest on the board, it suddenly becomes not so easy. So I'll kick off this best worst thing. Let me start with let's just do the best first, then we'll do the worst. Does that sound good?
Sure.
So my favorite team last year was the team with Jones, Fournette, Juju, and Keenan Allen. And I think I'm going to double down on that. 5th round, you add Deshaun Watson, who's a huge playmaker, has a huge potential there. Robert Woods becomes then your last flex position, who's like a number 1 wide receiver. And then you have two like really high ceiling, maybe sleepers, or just guys who could produce this year in Cam Akers and AJ Green. So I really like the balance of both of not only positions, but also of like proven commodities and then potential superstars that everybody's sleeping on that I got in the 7th and 8th round.
How about you, Ted?
I don't remember who I picked as my favorite last week.
I believe it was your team 1, if I'm not mistaken.
That first one, yeah. So okay, then I'm changing, and the favor is now shifting to team 6. This week I added Mark Andrews, Jarvis Landry, Ronald Jones, and Marvin Jones to a team that already had Michael Thomas, Kenyon Drake, George Kittle, and James Conner. Right now I'm feeling like sitting on the quarterback felt like a good move. I'm in love with the double tight end thing. And I think that Jarvis Landry, Jones, and Jones are all like solid players, like again, really high floor kind of guys, in my opinion, that just like really make this roster bulletproof. It makes it bye week proof. And at the end of the day, I'm always going to have Michael Thomas as that guy that could just put up monster points every week. So I kind of feel like I've got a floor, and he's like a surefire to do it 4 or 5 times in the season, assuming, no injuries. But like also like Kittle and Andrews and even Jarvis Landry like could have these monster. Even Connor could have a big game. So like I feel like there are potential stars in a team that feels like it's got a high floor and is solid around buys. I don't know what actual weeks they have the bye weeks, but I feel like I have good depth already.
Yeah, for sure. My favorite team last week was my last team, Team 10, with Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and then rounded it out with Le'Veon Bell. I'm tempted to pick that team again with the additions of Mark Ingram and DK Metcalf. Although my last 2 picks, I don't like Kareem Hunt. I do like him. I think he's very talented. I just don't like the situation that he's in Cleveland. And Rob Gronkowski is a big question mark, despite how convincing I was when I made the pick. There are just 2 question marks there that I'm not really that comfortable with. And the way my team 4 is looking right now, I think that's got to be my favorite team at this point in the juncture. Ezekiel Elliott, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, despite what I said about the Cleveland running backs, still he's a backup running back, a bench running back at that point, or a flex starter, so I'm not too worried about it there. Allen Robinson and DJ Shark with Deebo Samuel at wide receiver is looking like a pretty good core. And I got Zach Ertz, one of the most consistent and productive tight ends over the last 6 or 7 years. And I have a very talented potential quarterback in Kyler Murray. So I like the way that team's looking so far, and that's my favorite right now.
Yeah. And you can
I know
always...
nobody asked, but I just wanted to let you know that I think teams 7, 8, and 9, just to be oppositional, I kind of like all their balance. I'm higher on DJ Moore than all you guys, and Jonathan Taylor I actually think looks pretty good. Darren Waller I'm a huge fan of, and also I like Terry McLaurin, James White rounding out the end of the draft for team 8. And also, it might be my favorite team. I'm not as high on Cortland Sutton as you guys may be, but Marquise Brown and Evan Ingram I think have a ton of potential. So I think team 9 actually looks probably might end up being my favorite out of the group, oddly enough.
It is a very good team like that. I'm sitting here and looking at it. I love that running back room. It's very good.
I mean, you look at some of these 4-player chunks that we got in these last 4 rounds. Cortland Sutton, Russell Wilson, Marquise Brown, and Evan Ingram. Those are 4 great players. Mark Andrews, Jarvis Landry, Marvin Jones, or Deshaun Watson, Robert Woods, and AJ Green, or Chris Carson, Devontae Parker, Stephon Diggs, and Julian Edelman. Like I guess my point is that there's so much value still in this 4th to 8th round. So like just, in those first 4 rounds, don't panic. Like take the best player available, because there's still going to be these excellent players around if you're looking for them in the next 4 rounds to fill out like your starting roster.
And in reality, the value's there. It's just that there's just more question marks, right? Like, I mean, it's just that that's really what we're dealing with, is that there's extreme value, but also a hell of a lot more risk.
Yeah. And in these early rounds, like you saw with some of our squads, we both said, we're going to wait on a tight end because we don't really like who's available here. Oh, we don't really like the quarterback, so we're going to wait. I mean, when you look at some of the quarterbacks that are left on this list, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, right? Aaron Rodgers, right? Carson Wentz is still available. Like, these are all great tight ends that we're going to probably see in the next chunk of our draft next week. But these are all starting quarterbacks that, like, you could end up building your team in these first 8 picks with really solid running backs, wide receivers, and potentially tight ends. But that's where your team is built, with running backs and wide receivers. And that's really what you should focus on in the first 8 rounds of the draft, for sure.
Yep.
Boys, it was a hell of a night.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
Happy to have been here, and I guess we'll anybody else need to weigh in, or are we calling it a night?
I say we end the stream, and then we could talk a little bit off air and see what's going on.
All right, fellas.
All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Those who did watch.
Thanks for watching.
Yay.
Like, share, subscribe.
Drink V8.
Drink V8. Yes, that's what we learned tonight. All right, everyone. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you soon.